All right. Welcome to another episode of the Legacy Builders podcast. I'm your host, Kyle McGee. Today, we're joined by someone who brings grit, heart, and nearly 3 decades of real estate experience to the table. David Hrizak is the co-founder and CEO of the Streamline companies, a vertically integrated firm specializing in medical and Class B office space. He's a seasoned investor, operator, and leader known for his no-nonsense, purpose-driven approach. After retiring at 49, David came back not for profit, but to help others build real wealth and lasting legacy. From a tough upbringing on the south side of Chicago to mentoring pro athletes and entrepreneurs today, David's journey is all about resilience, impact, and doing business the right way. Let's get into it. Welcome, David.
Thank you very much for having me, Kyle. Great to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we could get the conversation kicked off with just a little bit about your background, how you got started in the real estate industry, and then what you're up to today.
Sure, absolutely. So my story starts on the south side of Chicago. Raised with no father figure in my life, mother working long hours in downtown Chicago. It was truly my grandmother that stepped up to be my head coach in life. She taught me grit, determination, hard work ethic, loyalty, determination, those qualities that still live within me today in every business and personal relationship that I have. I got into the real estate industry 29 years ago, started in the real estate brokerage community. We were selling multi-tenant properties to private investors that were seeking ways to diversify their portfolio away from the stock market. We also offered property management services. Started my own brokerage company in 1999. A few years followed, got into development and investing in another partnership, and started small, just like most people do in investing. We did a single home fix and flip. Then we did 2. Then we did some new construction homes. And then we started buying apartment buildings. And then we went into commercial and ultimately kept growing our portfolio along the way, adding syndication deals to it with private investors backing us when we couldn't do the deal ourselves, but ultimately grew a nice portfolio. And then, as you mentioned, I retired when I was 49 years old. I was on my 49th birthday in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, enjoying myself, ready to enter that big 50th year of life. And I ended up in the hospital for 3 days. I got thrown off a horse, had a collapsed lung, and sat alone in a hospital. Luckily, I'm able to speak Spanish pretty well, so I can communicate well, and the doctor spoke English back. But it was during that time in the hospital that I said, you know what, if I can make it out of this, I'm done. I've done everything I needed to do. My wife was retiring from the education industry. My kids were pretty much grown at that point and self-sufficient. And the doctor told me, you shouldn't fly for at least 10 more days. Well, here we were almost December 8th, 9th at that time, and I wasn't going to risk being down there alone for Christmas. So I got on that plane, didn't know what was going to happen, held my wife's hand for the whole 2-hour flight back up to Phoenix, and got off that plane relieved and said, let's start enjoying our lives. And my wife and I went on a journey for ultimately 10 months of traveling throughout the country, throughout the world. But then by the 10th month, I realized I was missing something. Enjoying the time with my wife, no doubt. But it was about that time my current business partner came to me, Scott Roney. He said, Dave, I'm looking for a new challenge. He had been a Fortune 500 corporate attorney for 30 years. And I said, Scott, you know what? I'm looking for a new challenge as well. I want to reinvigorate what I had fun doing the most. And that was assisting people build long-term wealth through passive real estate investments. So that's when we launched Streamline Capital Group at my 50th birthday party, pretty much in 2022. And since 2022, we've assisted a number of investors into 2 syndication deals here in Arizona, and have recently launched our first 506c fund as well to raise $15 million and deploy into multiple projects at one time.
Love it. Really great story and a lot to unpack there. I want to start at the beginning. You know, when you said you started as a broker and then you started your own brokerage, you know, The real estate industry is a little bit different to where you can, and especially in sales, like you start as an entrepreneur, whether you have your license with somebody or not, like you're kind of an entrepreneur from the beginning, right? And you have to be scrappy and eat what you kill. What inspired you to start your own brokerage? Was it just you were tired of paying the split and you had the confidence after some deals, or, to kind of go take that entrepreneurial leap to another step?
Yeah, I'm an entrepreneur at heart. It was that opportunity to control my own destiny. I was working at a great small brokerage firm in the suburbs of Chicago, but it was family owned. It was very tight knit, and there was no opportunity for me to have any ownership. And I knew if I was going to grow my long-term wealth, I needed to have a piece of ownership. So when they declined my offer to become part owner, I said, all right, let's create my own, which I did, and launched it in 1999, and successfully was a broker and property manager for a number of years until I really went full time into the investment and development side.
Interesting. I love this story, or I don't love it for you. Like that must have sucked, like you're enjoying a good vacation with your family and you're thrown off the horse. But in most entrepreneurs' life, there are this like defining moment. And that sounds like that was the defining moment for you, to kind of take a step back and reassess your life. What was that 10-month journey like? When you've had a pretty successful run, up into this point, and then you're like, all right, I got to reassess. What was that 10 months like from the beginning to the end, and for those around you too?
Wow. It was probably the best time of my life, besides the birth of my 3 children. So it was truly a chance for my wife and I to reconnect. We were married young, and at the time I decided to call it quits. We were married 24 years, and most of that time was spent building my career. My long hours, my erratic schedule being the entrepreneur, I always made it a priority to get home for dinner, help with the kids, coach teams, attend dance recitals, but then potentially go back to work after those kids were in bed. And it was throughout those 24 years of building the business that my wife stayed extremely connected. But it wasn't until I retired and during that 10-month journey that we became closer than ever. Mm-hmm. And truly, it was my faith from being in that hospital and praying and hoping God gets me home safely, to the journey of the 10 months of building our relationship even stronger. And ultimately, I became a better person when I was able to step back and realize, hey, life is great. God is good. I built something strong, and it's there. It's our legacy. But then at the end of that 10 months, it's when I wanted to do something even more for people around me. And that's why we created Streamline Capital the way we did.
I love it. And it's a perfect transition into, what the show's called. It's called Legacy Builders. So it's a common theme that we like to talk about. How do you personally define legacy, and how has that evolved over your career?
Well, what are they going to say about you when you're gone? That's your legacy, right? And the thing I'm most proud of, it's not the buildings I've owned, it's not the buildings I've built, it's the family I've built. And that's my true legacy. Money comes, money goes. But if you don't have your family, you don't have anything. And that is my true legacy that I will leave behind, more so than any business deal I've ever been successful in.
Great answer. Love it. And you mentioned your faith and sitting in that hospital bed, praying to God, for a full recovery. I'm sure there was many prayers on that flight when they told you not to fly. How important has your faith been in your life?
Extremely important. God is responsible for everything that we do, everything that happens, whether it's good or bad. There's a reason for it. We don't always understand that reason, but if we trust in God as we should, all will work out for its good.
Love it. It's so real. There, the good news about having a strong faith in God is like you will see the other side of it if you do believe and you stick to it. You mentioned in your introduction and given your background, not having a father figure, and your grandma played a huge role in your life. I'm curious of that upbringing, how did it influence your role as a father? Now that you have 3 kids.
Yeah. So I immediately knew the father figure I didn't want to be.
Yeah.
When you have kids, it doesn't come with a playbook or an instruction book, so you have to figure out how to work at it along the way. Nobody's life is ever perfect, and if they tell you so, they're lying. I've made mistakes as a father and as a parent over my 28 years of being such, but the good outweighs the bad. And when you have a loving wife and a loving family and you treat people with respect, it's all going to come back to you.
So you mentioned you have 3 kids and they're grown. I have 3 sons. The oldest one is 3. So I'm curious at what kind of advice you've got over the years, right? I'm big. Obviously, I have a podcast. I'm big in learning from others, right? So what kind of advice would you give me as a father with young children, and super entrenched in my career as well?
Yeah, as a father of 3 kids, first words that come to mind are good luck.
Love it.
No, but seriously, be compassionate. Always be a listener. Your kids are going to mess up. Just like we messed up when we were kids. They don't know the rules and the playbook of becoming good human beings. They learn that by what you do. They learn that by watching you and your wife and how you treat others, how you treat each other, and how you treat them. And that's the best advice I can give to anybody that's just starting out in their family. Be a listener, be compassionate, and be present. So many times I wasn't. Back in the day when I was building my business, I would be so distracted with emails or text messages and not paying attention to what was going on around me. And I did miss a lot. Even though I was there, I missed a lot of things that were happening. And there were a number of years where we can look back on. And my wife said, "Do you remember when?" I said, "No, I don't." She goes, "You were there." I'm like, I was there, but I wasn't there. Yeah. So my advice is just be present in the moment and enjoy it, because it's not going to last for long.
Sure. And it is something that I have a lot of personal awareness around that fact. And it's something I have to write almost every day, like be present, right? Because we have so many things, especially in today's day and age with these things. And, for those listening, I brought up my phone, and email, text messages, business call, all of the things, right? There's so much distraction in today's day and age that it takes a lot of self-discipline to be fully present and to turn it off or leave it in a separate room. So great advice. Easier said than done. There's a lot of talk around high performers and entrepreneurs around work-life balance. And then a lot of people don't believe in a work-life balance, and it's a work-life blend, and you bring your kids along with you to work or your family into your work. What is your take on, keeping a close family and being high performing in your work as well?
I think it's important to let the kids see what you do. And they may not understand it, but they're going to see it. They're going to watch it. When we started having kids, I would love my Saturday mornings, because that was my time to get back into the office, get caught up on some paperwork. But I would always bring my oldest daughter with me, and she would watch me work. She would sit at my desk and take some paper out of the drawer and color me pictures. And those pictures that she made went into a file, and I still have that file today. Now that same daughter's 28 years old. She's my operations manager in this company.
Love it.
And it's true for my son. When we were doing a lot of construction work and new construction or remodeling, I would take him on site so he could see it, understand it. I've got pictures of him sitting in a backhoe when he was 4 years old, learning how to pull the levers to dig a ditch or to dig a foundation. And each kid is unique in their own way, and you have to understand what they're going to enjoy and let them see it, let them learn it, so that they can understand what they like, what they don't like, and help formulate their own ideas for the future.
That's a good point. And it's interesting that you say that, because a lot of the people I'm talking to, and most of the people I'm talking to on this podcast, are entrepreneurs or business owners, and they so many times mention having an entrepreneurial upbringing, right? And it's like the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Not always the case, right? But a lot of the times, like they're like, oh, well, that's just what I knew, right? Like we were business owners, or my family was small business owners. So it's super important. And I'm glad you brought that up. Staying on the kids for a second, if you could pass on just one character trait or principle to pass on to your kids, what would it be?
Well, it should be the basic rule of life. Do unto others as you want them to do to you. So I've had a lot of mentors in my life, many of them good, some of them bad. And the bad mentors derailed my career for a little bit, stalled my career. But I was also quick to react and adjust and get things back on track. So treat others like you want to be treated. Treat them with respect and compassion, loyalty, dedication. And the majority of people are good, and you're going to get that right back from you as well. So that's the biggest thing I would want to pass along and instill.
Love it. Love it. Well, let's move the conversation a little bit to your business now. So when you came back after you had your 10-month, I don't know if we'll call it retirement. We'll call it hiatus.
It's a sabbatical is what I've come up with.
Yeah. After your 10-month sabbatical and you started Streamline companies, talk to me about what you guys are up to and how you got that off the ground.
Sure. So we started, again, doing what I knew best, which was the single asset syndications. We went out and we purchased a $5 million office complex here in Phoenix. That was our first purchase in this new company, $5 million right out of the gate. We raised capital from friends and family through a 506B fund, and we immediately deployed an extra $1 million into improvements into the property to bring it up to today's standards, to modernize it, to create spec suites on the vacant offices. That's our Class B office model. And then within a year after that, we went into another development or another opportunity. It was almost a $3 million purchase, another Class B office building in Mesa, Arizona. That one was a little bit more stabilized, didn't need as many improvements into it, but that building is 100% occupied today because of the changes that we've made. And the Streamline companies, what's great about us is we're vertically integrated. So Streamline Capital Group is our investment arm where we work with our passive investors. We educate them. We deliver returns to them. But I also have Streamline Development, which is our licensed general contracting company. Going back to 2001 when I got into development, we were always our own general contractors on everything we did. And I learned from my business partner at the time, who unfortunately passed away since, I learned the general contracting business from him because I didn't have a father to teach me how to swing a hammer when I was young. I didn't really know that, but he taught me that. He was one of my best mentors ever. I miss him. I love him today. But then our third entity is Streamline Asset Management. We have our own in-house property management program. So from day one of acquisition through improvements, through management, through ultimate disposition or recapitalization, everything is kept under one roof. So there's no need for third-party consultants and the possibility of things slipping through the cracks with somebody else.
Yeah, it's important for people to hear this, and anyone interested in investing in real estate, like this is a very important concept that we really haven't dug deep on in the podcast. So I'm excited to go deeper. We also have the same model. We're fully integrated, fully vertically integrated with general contracting, property management, and capital as well. And so talk to me about the importance of this and how important it is to control every aspect of it and not rely on any third parties.
Because we're investors side by side with our limited partners, that gives me an advantage. So I look at every deal as the co-owner, right? It's my money along with theirs, and I need to protect and build at the same time.
Yep.
So having those three things dialed in the right way is extremely important. There's so many efficiencies that we have because of our vertical integration that would ultimately, if we had third parties, it would reduce our returns and not be as beneficial to myself as co-owner and to my co-investors. So by keeping it all in-house based on my 29 years of experience, we're more successful because of it.
Yeah, I also like to think of construction and property management as it's gonna break. Like at some point, there's something that's gonna break and it's gonna fail or it's gonna be a challenge. But by owning it and having control over it, you're able to first diagnose the problems quicker, right? And you're able to get real live data like as it's happening and then come up with solutions and not wait for someone to tell you about it 30 days later or have zero control over the contractor or the subcontractors or the property manager. Like if something is not working, I'm walking next door to my property manager's office, like right here, and I'm not waiting for a report on the 17th of the next month. So the speed and how you can get in and solve problems, I think is just critical. Talk to me about, so you're kind of, from my little bit of research that I've done, you're focused on medical office. Is that the asset type you're in right now?
Medical office and Class B office. And we love medical office because it's resilient to the economy. Whether times are good or times are bad, people need doctors. And here in the Arizona market, our population is continually growing. People are moving here full time because of new jobs, new opportunities. But our population is also aging as well. So the need for good medical facilities is extremely important. I've owned a building in the Chicago market. I bought in 2009, completely remodeled it, leased it fully in 2010, and for 15 years it's been 100% occupied. Doctors don't like to leave their locations because they have a significant investment in their build out and their clientele base. They'd like to know that they have a stability place for the clients to understand and continually showing up to their appointments. Now, we also go into Class B, we love because it's the small businesses of America. There's been a lot of bad news in the world about office after the pandemic and the return to office mandate that a lot of the large corporations have issued. Well, small businesses didn't have that to deal with. Because they were small businesses and cash flow is a primary concern, they weren't able to send people away and continue to pay a lease on a unit that they rented. They worked through it. They grit and determination made the small businesses even more successful throughout and after the pandemic. And if you look up the SBA statistics, 99.9% of all businesses in the world, in the U.S., are considered small businesses. So our tenants in the Class B are architects, insurance companies, wealth managers, counseling offices, you name it, anything that's typically 10 employees or lower, those are a Class B type tenant. So we don't suffer with the vacancy. Our rent rolls are structured where no tenant typically occupies more than 10 to 15% of the building. So if one of them does happen to have trouble and have to leave, or one of them does hit it big and grow into bigger space that we can accommodate, we're not experiencing catastrophic events to our income flow.
That was going to be my next question, whether these were single tenant office spaces or multi-tenant. And it sounds like they're multi-tenant office spaces.
Well, absolutely multi-tenant. I personally do not subscribe to the single tenant net leased philosophy. We never thought Walgreens would close stores that they're opening, but across the country, they have made them dark and abandoned their stores. Everybody thought a Walgreens triple net lease was a great investment. Well, things change throughout the world and throughout the economy. And by being multi-tenant, we diversify that risk.
So there's been so many headlines, if anybody that follows the real estate industry over the past 5 years, like about how the office market is falling down, and there's so much distress in the office market. I think you touched on this a little bit, but I'd like to go a little bit deeper in how have you been affected by COVID and how have your office deals done during this quote unquote difficult time?
Well, fortunately, I live in Arizona, and Arizona is very conservative and very progressive with their views on the pandemic. And they didn't let things shut down for too long here. They let businesses be businesses.
We're in Florida, so we might have you beat there.
Exactly. Yeah, you guys were open the second day of the pandemic. I think we took 30 days off here. But after we really started investing at the end of the pandemic, and then since then, we have had great success with businesses coming back online, businesses being created, the need for new office space to be acquired. So we feel very confident in where we're at in Phoenix with our philosophy and our asset class that we're in, that we're in a strong buying position right now and looking to acquire more.
Couple more detail-oriented questions. Are your typical leases 5-year terms, triple net?
3 to 5, triple net. So typically, what's one of the things in our property management program, typically some of the older buildings, people that have owned them forever, don't have sophisticated property management techniques. So they just let them be gross leases. They pay their rent, maybe their utilities, and that's it. Well, when we take over a building, our asset management program is designed to make all leases into triple net so that we build that budget for common area expense, taxes, insurance, and that gets billed back to the tenants in the form of a monthly triple net payment in addition to their base rent.
And are you strictly investing in Phoenix?
Currently, yes. Because we just reinvigorated my career 3 years ago, there's so many opportunities here with what's happening in Arizona that for the foreseeable next 3 years will be specifically only in Phoenix.
Gotcha. What's your biggest challenge or difficulty in running and operating your business right now?
Well, right now it's capital raising. There is a lot of money sitting on the sideline because of the global uncertainties. Now, we recently had the big, beautiful bill signed on July 4th. That was one of the things that will help spur growth in our country, economic growth. We have the trade tariff wars that are going on. That is, I think, what is keeping people on the sidelines because they don't understand what the future holds in a lot of that aspect. Even though that doesn't necessarily affect real estate, it does affect people's equity position in other investments. And until those are decided, I don't think we're going to see money start to really flow again like it has before.
And so what are you doing to navigate those challenges?
Well, we're building relationships. We're constantly meeting new people, cultivating relationships, going into different investor groups that we hadn't before. We really started to build some great relationships in the athlete community, both current and retired. I'm speaking this evening at the NFL Players Association meeting here in Arizona that I was recently invited to. So I'll be in front of a group of 75 former NFL legends that when you're an athlete, you get some pretty good earnings. Now, there's some sad statistics about athletes on how many of them become broke within 3 years after leaving their career, whether it be football, baseball, basketball, because they didn't have the right mentorship. And that's what I'm out there speaking about right now is the mentorship. Yes, we have opportunities for them to invest with us, but that's not what I push first. I push educating them, whether they're slowly investing in stocks or bonds or building a franchise system. I just want to help them. I want to help get the 29 years of experience that's in my head to the next group of people coming up the ladder.
So I'm curious on how that started. Like, do you have any professional athlete close friends, or what drew you to the athlete crowd?
Well, just turn on the TV and you see about all these crazy contracts that are being signed, and knowing that so many have been taken advantage of throughout their lives in the past. It's been a slow cultivating relationship of athletes. We use LinkedIn a lot. A lot of the smart athletes that have money, that have a business mind, are on LinkedIn. We've cultivated some great relationships there, and we've been fortunate to have some great introductions along the way. Once we can build a relationship with one, they say, hey, I'd like you to meet my friend here who is also in the same position I am. It's all about the relationship building. So we're using LinkedIn to build those relationships. Any athlete that has some business sense to them has a profile on LinkedIn. And we reach out. we communicate with them. We try and cultivate the relationship. And ultimately, yeah, we have opportunities for them to invest immediately with us, but our goal right now is just to build that relationship, help mentor them. So many athletes in the past have been broke within a short time after their career, and we want to help people avoid that. We want to help them build their own wealth and their own legacy as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's so many different routes to go, and there are some crazy statistics around the athletes, and it's sad, right, to hear these $100 million contracts over 5 years. Then next thing you know, 9 years later, you hear this sad story about them struggling. And so you've mentioned mentorship a couple times. Talk to me through who were some really powerful mentors in your life and what impact they had on you.
Well, the first mentor was my grandmother. I mean, without the hard work, discipline, determination, loyalty, without those qualities that she taught me, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. So I thank God for having her in my life. And it's unfortunate when she passed away, she didn't even know who I was. Alzheimer's took over, and she just didn't know her family. And which is one of the reasons I'm very involved with a philanthropic effort. We can get into that later. My business partner that passed away in 2009, we became partners in 2001, and we had a great 8-year run. But ultimately, he passed away, I think, from a lot of stress that we were going through during the Great Recession. We were in the middle of a $4 million development at that time. People were losing their homes. We couldn't sell the properties that we were building. The lender was under pressure to foreclose on us by the federal regulators. But I wasn't going to let that happen. I was going to pivot. I was going to play defense and look for an opportunity to pivot. And I did. Ultimately, after my business partner passed away, I restructured the debt with the bank, was able to acquire the funds to complete the development, rent the units instead of selling them. And then when the market shifted, I started playing offense, started selling the units, and ultimately sold every unit for a profit. So it wasn't the perfect business plan scenario. What was supposed to be 3 years ended up being about 6, maybe 7 years. But that's going to happen in business. Not every deal goes according to the way you pencil it out. What makes you great is how you pivot and how you respond to the adversity that's thrown at you.
Love it. My dad passed in 2018, and a quote that helped me get through this is exactly what you just said. It's not what happens to you, it's how you respond to what happens to you that defines you, right? And it's something that I went back to over and over, and it sounds like it played a huge role in your life as well. With those strong mentors in your life, how has that inspired you to do your athlete training, to continue to pour back into others and mentor others?
Yeah. So it goes back on to do unto others as you want done to you. So I'm taking the positive mentor learning that I had, as well as taking some of the negative mentoring I had, so I know what to avoid. And it's just a position in my life where I just want to instill passion and education into those coming up the ladder behind us. And the mentorship that I had from my grandmother and from my business partner that passed, and now even my current business partner, he inspires me with his faith and his calming attitude when I get worked up. He's able to bring me down to earth and say, hey, this is what the reality is. And okay, take a deep breath, think about it, learn from it, and then make the appropriate adjustments.
You mentioned you do some philanthropic work around Alzheimer's and based off of your experience with losing your grandmother to that. Talk me through that.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
So I am the board president of a 50-year-old nonprofit here in Mesa, Arizona, Oakwood Creative Care. It is a series of day clubs where if you have a loved one suffering with a cognitive disability of Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson, you bring them to our club. And our CEO, Sherry Friend, has a dignity through engagement philosophy and a no bingo policy. She doesn't want people sitting down in a corner watching TV, playing bingo. It is getting up, dancing to Zumba, exercise classes, arts and crafts, music lessons, history lessons. We've created our own choir with our members that perform at our events and just bring joy back into their lives and joy into everybody that they touch as well. So I'm privileged to be the board chairman now. I'm entering my third year as chairman, and I'm helping this organization grow to affect even more people throughout the Valley of Arizona.
Can you think of one moment in your philanthropic work that stuck with you and maybe even changed you?
Well, yes. We have our bi-monthly board meetings, and we asked a caregiver of one of our members to come back and talk to the board. And I told our board, we sit in here as stewards of the organization with our business minds, our civic minds, but ultimately we don't get to see what our decisions do and how they affect people. When this caregiver came back and said his wife was happier and more joyful when she's around Oakwood Creative Care, it helped the end of their relationship. Ultimately, she passed just 2 weeks after that presentation. But knowing that we impacted that short time they had together, short remaining time, it's incredible. It's fun to hear the stories back from our efforts that we're doing in a boardroom.
Sure. It makes me, that example makes me think of, business and leadership. Like we can sometimes, or I can sometimes get, trapped in my office trying to work on pro formas, finding the next deal, but just a little bit of touch at the properties, like with your team, how much impact that can have to re-energize you, to motivate you. It's a great point.
Yeah, absolutely. When you're an entrepreneur and you're in the real estate industry, getting out of the office, getting to those properties, meeting our tenants. The first thing we do when we buy a property, because we're going to be the property managers, we go out and introduce ourselves door to door to every tenant in the building and say, hey, not only are we your property managers, we're going to take care of any repairs, we're also owners. So we're going to be more reactive and even proactive with the inspections that we do, to make sure if we can avoid something, we're going to make sure we avoid it through our proactive inspections. But building those relationships with our tenants makes the property management easier, and ultimately makes it easier when we come to releasing those units or renewing those leases.
Yeah, when you can humanize a relationship and not make it just so business and make it a little personal connection, you typically it helps create a win-win solution. When you look back on your younger self, grinding it out in brokerage, what advice would today's David give him?
Boy, I wish I would have grown quicker and taken more risks, actually. I think I could have helped more people if I had taken more risks early on in my career and grown. I was never afraid to fail. That was not even a thought in my head. If I failed, I knew I'd pick myself up and rebuild. But I would say to anybody today, including my young self, go out and do it. Be aggressive. Leave no stone unturned. Cultivate relationships. And it's all going to come back to you. The relationships are the key thing. And I was always a strong proponent of being able to adapt to different situations, whether I had an 80-year-old investor, a 50-year-old investor, or I was dealing with somebody my own age. I was able to adapt to those conversations and relationships and be as present as possible at the time to understand their needs, their wants, and how I could help them. So, piece of advice, be aggressive, just do it.
Love it. Love it. Massive inspired action daily. If you could only recommend one book, that's not the Bible, what would it be to a younger entrepreneur?
Well, it's the book that's probably one of the most powerful and popular books out there when it comes to understanding money. Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I don't read a lot of books. I don't have the attention span for long details like that. I listen to books. I listen to a ton of podcasts. And I get more education out of real world current conversation than I do out of books that are written. But what inspired me about Rich Dad, Poor Dad was the concept of how to deal with money, and how to understand what money really is and what it isn't. And it's that book I just gave to all of my kids and my extended kids. I've got a lot of kids that hang out at my house that are my friends' kids. I gave 9 books away at Easter this year. And I said, I want you all to read Rich Dad, Poor Dad and come back to me with questions. And I want you to understand what inspired me.
Have any of them come back with questions? It's been about 3 months now.
Yeah. So a couple of them haven't opened the book. Many of them have finished it. Many of them are mostly through it. But yes, we've had conversations on a continual basis. Every time I see them, or I'll send out a group text. What page are you on? What chapter are you on?
Yeah. And your previous advice is, I think, like so true and so real. Like, so you just gave out 9 copies and half of them read it, and then 2 of them probably have notes on it and they're hitting you up on it. And how did you do this? But if we could just inspire more people to take more action, like, on what people learn, it's not just about reading the book, but it's about taking action on top of it. Right.
One of them was so inspired by the book, he actually reached out and sent a message to Robert Kiyosaki. Hasn't heard back yet, but he wanted to talk to Robert Kiyosaki more.
I love it. And the point of that is not to hear back from Robert Kiyosaki, but it's putting out in the universe, right? That what you're looking for.
Yep.
So good. Well, David, this has been a great conversation. I'm super grateful that you came on and shared some wisdom and about what you're doing. If there's someone that wants to connect with you on a deeper level or reach out about Streamline and what you're doing business-wise, how can they get a hold of you?
Absolutely. I'm a huge proponent of LinkedIn, as I mentioned before. David J. Hrizak, Hrizak on LinkedIn. Reach out to me via email. I answer all of my own emails, djh@thestreamlinecompanies.com, or check our website out at thestreamlinecompanies.com, and you'll see the vertical integration that we have here at the Streamline Companies.
Awesome. And we'll put a link to all of that in our show notes. To our listeners, if this conversation resonated with you, share it with someone who's chasing more than just a paycheck. Subscribe, leave a review, and keep showing up for your legacy. And we'll see you next time on the Legacy Builders podcast. Thank you.